What's up, fellow gamers? I'm a little bit late to the party on this one, but I figured I really wanted to talk about it because it looks super duper interesting, and that is, of course, as I'm sure you've guessed from the title here, that Harry Potter leak. It came out around the start of the month, and it was the result of a cheeky chappy just recording it on his phone at a focus test group. The leak would eventually be revealed by a Reddit user by the username of VapeThisBro. He said there was a no phones allowed rule in the focus test group that he went to, but nobody checked him. The little rebel hastily took the footage and he'd later blur out that serial number at the bottom that would actually get his ass sued to hell and back by Warner Brothers. To Polygon, he had this to say: "It was one of those small survey groups. I wasn't allowed to have the camera. The signs in the lobby say no phones, but no one checked me. The guys who did all the paperwork looked like they gave zero fucks about their jobs, and they were just getting anyone and everyone who would do the viewing to do it." He said that he even got paid to watch it. This would be the first Harry Potter game in the franchise to actually release since 2011, so for Harry Potter fans, the wait is real, and it has been quite some time. It's being developed by a studio called Avalanche Software. Now, this isn't to be confused with Avalanche Studios, those being the guys who make Mad Max and who are currently working on Rage 2. Now, Avalanche Software, the Harry Potter developers here, they actually work alongside Warner Brothers to create video games of movie franchises. Now, I know Harry Potter was books first, but obviously Warner Brothers play a big part in the Harry Potter movies coming to the big silver screen. So in the case of Avalanche Software, they've got a big history in terms of dealing with Toy Story and many other Disney tie-ins, including Hannah Montana Spotlight World Tour. Yeesh. But on the flip side, thankfully this Harry Potter game is looking nothing like that cringe fest. It seems to have a whole bunch of good ideas. It's going to be set in the 1800s, well before our established Harry Potter timeline. It has character creation, it's going to be an open world, and it's rumoured to have RPG mechanics where players can choose their Hogwarts house, their friends, whether to be good or evil. You know, the usual RPG shtick. What makes it so interesting is how easily it can be applied to Harry Potter, and it's quite surprising that it hasn't already been done, to be honest. And I know what you're thinking, where's the footage, why can't I see it right now? Well, as I'm sure you can imagine, Warner Brothers actually went on the warpath after this bloke released the footage, went all over deleting videos left, right and centre, something I could certainly do without, as I'm sure you can appreciate. But don't be disheartened if you missed out on this, because I did manage to dig up some actual footage. I managed to find the whole thing, and it actually turns out that Warner Brothers forgot to have a good old look around on Vimeo. I managed to dig it up there, so there's a link in the description below. Take a look for yourself if you did miss out on the footage when it got leaked a month ago. When I first learned of this news, I must admit I was a little bit worried about this dev team working on something of this scale, given their history of game releases so far. Now, I'm not saying that their games in the past have been awful or anything like that, but they are mostly designed for a much younger gaming audience and with a completely different kind of art style. This Harry Potter game, as you can see, has a much more realistic vibe to its textures, to its art style, and it has a much more mature tone. Another thing that I am a little bit worried about is their publisher. Warner Brothers had a good old stab at the whole corporate greed thing around this time last year with all the orc loot boxes in Shadow of War. Now, those got demonetized in the end, but who knows? Warner Brothers might feel like having another stab at it with an open world game like Harry Potter that has a promising existing audience lying in wait. In other words, a higher potential for more wallets to empty. But after catching up with that game footage that's in the description below there, my cynicism was dispelled just a little bit. It does show off some good sinister beasties, the combat looks fairly interesting, and it's got a destructible environment, which is particularly interesting for what's supposed to be a massive open world game. Will this destructible stuff be condensed into cinematic-like set pieces, or will it just be across the board? If so, then the game is likely next gen. It's one thing to have this much detail in an open world game. It looks absolutely gorgeous, but for a layer of destructibility throughout, that is no small task, neither for the developer nor for the hardware of your gaming machine. Ah, but what about Red Faction Guerrilla, I hear you say? Well, that was an open world game that was fully destructible, but unlike Harry Potter, it was just like a blanket layout of buildings, and there weren't really any specific locations, of familiarity. Like, you can't expect to go through this Harry Potter game and raze Hogwarts to the ground. It's just not something that's going to happen. So if they are going to get this destructible environment in throughout the entirety of the game, it's going to take a lot more bespoke work. It's going to take a lot more effort in specific areas throughout the entirety of the map, and as I say, that's going to require a lot more development time. It's going to require a lot more out of your hardware. And if you don't believe me, just look at the footage in the description below there. It'll do all of the talking for me. It looks mental. And I'll admit, I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan myself. I did fall out of the franchise after Prisoner of Azkaban. Don't ask me why, just kind of happened. But I'd like to think that I'm entitled to be excited for this game, not as a Harry Potter fan, but as a gamer. Let's be honest here, this is perfect open world RPG stuff. The game looks gorgeous, and there's all kinds of clever little mechanics that could be cooked into it if the job is done properly. There's no word yet on when we'll hear more about this game, so there's not really much else to say. The developers haven't even made a formal announcement to the public yet, which means, frankly, anything could happen during the development process. The game may never even materialise, but here's hoping, eh? Are you, unlike me, a big Harry Potter fan? I can only imagine your levels of excitement for this one. Does the footage in the description below there get you super hyped? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys on the next Game Sesh. Peace.